Corporation Law, the Revised Corporation Code, the story of a legal fiction, the artificial being. In 2008, Mayor Celso de Los Angeles ran the Legacy Group, 13 rural banks, and a pre-need firm, each its own corporation, each its own person in the eyes of the law. He lured depositors with double-your-money promises. When it collapsed, the Banco Central shut all 13 banks, freezing more than 14 billion pesos in deposits across 132,000 accounts. The question that haunts this lecture: how does one man lose 132,000 families their savings and still stand legally separate from it? That word, separate, is the whole of corporation law. When the state recognizes a corporation, it creates an artificial person and hands its owners three gifts: separateness from their business, a life that outlives them, and a shield against its debts. Today, how the law builds that fiction and when it tears it down. Act 1. The fiction. What a corporation actually is. A corporation is an artificial being created by operation of law, having the right of succession and the powers expressly authorized by law. 4 ideas hide in that sentence. It is artificial, a creature of law, not nature. It is created by operation of law. It exists only because a statute allows it. It has the right of succession. It survives changes in ownership, and it has only the powers the law grants it. The first gift, and the most important: the corporation is a person in its own right, distinct from the people who own it. It signs its own contracts, owns its own property, sues, and is sued in its own name. And crucially, its debts are its own. A shareholder's liability is limited to what they invested. Lose the company, and creditors generally cannot reach your house. That shield is why people incorporate. The second gift, immortality. Shares change hands, founders die, directors come and go. The corporation continues. Under the old law, a corporate life was capped at 50 years, renewable. The Revised Corporation Code of 2019 flipped the default. Corporations now have perpetual existence unless they choose otherwise. But the shield has a limit. When the separate personality is used to defeat public convenience, justify a wrong, or shield fraud, courts will pierce the corporate veil, look past the fiction, and hold the people behind it liable. The classic test is the alter ego. Is the corporation just a conduit for its owner? In Concept Builders versus NLRC, a company facing a back wages award to illegally dismissed workers stopped operating and shifted its assets to a new corporation. Same president, same board, same address. The Supreme Court pierced the veil. The second company was the first, wearing a mask. Corporations come in many kinds. Only a few distinctions matter day to day. Stock versus non-stock, the one-person corporation, and the difference between a corporation that exists in full right, one that exists merely in fact, and one you are simply estopped from denying. The trade-off in one table: a shield in permanence, paid for in cost, heavier tax, and shared control. Act 2. Building and running the corporation, from charter to capital to the boardroom. To create the person, you file its birth certificate, the articles of incorporation, the corporate charter, naming its purpose, capital, and incorporators. Under the revised code, a corporation can now be formed by as few as 1 incorporator up to 15. Alongside the articles sit the bylaws, the internal rulebook for how the corporation governs itself. A corporation can only do what the law and its charter allow. Its powers come in 3 kinds: express, listed in the code and its articles; implied, reasonably necessary to carry those out; and incidental, inherent in being a corporation. Act beyond them, and the act is ultra vires. beyond the powers, void if it is illegal, or unenforceable if merely outside the corporate purpose. Capital is described in layers: authorized capital, the ceiling of shares it may issue; subscribed, the shares investors have committed to buy; and paid up, what has actually been paid in. And here is a doctrine creditors love: the trust fund doctrine. Subscribed capital, even if unpaid, is held in trust for creditors. A shareholder cannot be let off the hook for their subscription to a creditor's prejudice. In Philippine Trust Company versus Rivera, the court held exactly that. Unpaid subscriptions are a fund the corporation's creditors can reach. Shares themselves come in classes: common and preferred, voting and non-voting, par and no par, plus special breeds like founders, redeemable, and treasury shares. One kind the law forbids: watered stock, shares issued as fully paid when they are not. Who wields all this power? Not the shareholders day to day, and not any single officer, the board of directors acting as a body. The board is the corporation's mind, and the law binds each director with 3 duties: diligence, act on an informed basis; loyalty, put the corporation's interest above your own; and obedience, stay within the law and the charter. But directors are allowed to be wrong. Under the business judgment rule, courts will not second-guess a board's good faith, informed decision simply because it turned out badly. In Montelibano versus Bacolod-Murcia milling, the court refused to overturn a board's decision to grant added concessions to sugar planters. A decision within its powers, made in good faith, is the board's to make, not the court's. What is left for the owners? Their rights fit on one card: to vote, to elect and remove directors, to share in dividends, to inspect the books, to buy new shares first, and, when the board itself is the wrongdoer, to sue on the corporation's behalf. And when a corporation dies, voluntarily or by court order, it does not vanish overnight. It enters a 3-year winding up, collecting assets, paying debts, distributing what is left. And notice the order. Creditors are paid first. Shareholders take only what remains. Even in death, the owners stand behind everyone the corporation owed, which brings us back to legacy. A shield until it's a mask. 13 corporations, 1 man. The separate personality that let legacy pool a nation's savings was the same fiction the courts used to pierce: to reach the person behind the mask. That is corporation law in one breath. The state lends you a second self, a shield, a name, a life beyond your own, and asks only that you not use it to cheat, because the moment you do, the law can see straight through it.